paragraph 92 of your statement, General Khumalo. I know during consultation you've indicated that before you take us through the evidence, you'd just like to give a brief description of what Gauteng counterintelligence operations was about and how it subsequently led to the discovery of the infiltration. So if you could just start off by giving a brief description of Gauteng counterintelligence operation that was undertaken.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. On paragraph 92, I'm indicating that the infiltration of criminals of the criminal justice system became quite clear to me through my work as head of crime intelligence, not as a project leader of PKTT. There was an operation or investigation conducted by Gauteng Organized Crime Unit, which was a normal investigation of a murder of Mr. Aman Swart, an engineer in Vereeniging, and we were not aware of that investigation. It was just their investigation. But then, because of the, if I go to next page, paragraph 96, where we are reflecting on the letter that was written by the senior state prosecutor addressed to the provincial commissioner of Gauteng, the deputy provincial commissioner, as well as the deputy national commissioner and the national commissioner. On that letter, the prosecutor was highlighting the threats that the investigation itself, as well as the investigating officers, were facing, mainly because initially it was mainly because one of the accused was a former warrant officer in the SAPS, and who was identified as an organizer of hits within this organized crime syndicate. And then the prosecutor went on to explain the other challenges other than the threats against the investigating officers. In paragraph 100, the prosecutor is raising the issue of the ballistic report, which was excluded whilst it contains crucial information that linked the suspects to a firearm that was used in the murder of Mr. Swart, which is another threat now to the investigation itself, to the evidence. In paragraph 101, we are indicating as to what the prosecutor said in terms of that ballistic report, that the forensic analyst failed to link the AK-47 cartridge cases with the murder weapon that they were found in possession. So meaning that if that intervention was not done, the accused were only going to be charged for possession of unlicensed firearm, not the killing itself, because there was that suspicious failure of linking the firearm with the killing by the ballistic expert. And then the prosecutor also raised the issue of officials within SAPS that were directly and indirectly involved in the efforts to destabilize the investigation. These are the concerns that are shared by the senior state prosecutor who's prosecuting the case, sharing it with the national commissioner and the provincial commissioner. That talks to the incomplete ballistic report, the interference, the issuing or warning and threatening the members. So the members that were investigating were threatened by their own seniors. And then that resulted in that concern or letter then given to our provincial head, Crime Intelligence Gauteng, to conduct a threat and risk assessment, which is part of our mandate against the investigating officers and the investigation to find out as to how true are these concerns raised by the prosecutor. And then upon the finalization of the threat and risk assessment, and then the provincial head deemed it necessary to appraise me on that particular threat and risk assessment, as well as his recommendations. And then from my side, upon assessing the recommendations and the draft threat and risk assessment, I then briefed the National Commissioner and thereafter took a decision to register a counterintelligence project, of which I did that on the 29th of August. The letter by the prosecutor was dated the 5th of August. So after 2 to 3 weeks of the detailed threat and risk assessment, and then when it was presented to me, I then took that decision based on the level of threats. So as then we are able, because it's one of our mandates as crime intelligence to implement counterintelligence measures, whether proactively or reactively, to protect police SAPS operations as well as its personnel. The heading itself, it's long: events leading to Gauteng counterintelligence operations and further evidence of infiltration. But for ease of reference, I term it the beginning of PKTT and Gen Khumalo's problems. I was invited to this problem by that threat and risk assessment and the decision that I took, which then meant that we had to marry the Gauteng organized crime investigation with our counterintelligence investigation into one operation, which then gave birth to Gauteng counterintelligence investigation, the GCI Ops, because it was the combination now of both the investigation as well as counterintelligence measures or investigations. Then some of the measures that were put in place was to deploy our counterintelligence resources within the team and also the counterintelligence operatives. That was because of, firstly, the level of SAPS officials that were involved in this threat. It was evident to me then that, as it's normally the case, once you conduct a threat and risk assessment, you come up with recommendations. There must be a plan put in place to neutralize or to deal with that threat so as it does not become permanent. Hence, then one realized that for this particular operation, one will need the assistance from the highly specialized team to ensure that the investigation will be advanced swiftly as well as safely. That is when then I took the second decision to discuss with the Provincial Commissioner of KwaZulu-Natal the possibility of then getting assistance, temporal assistance from the PKTT. Hence, then I termed this as the beginning of my problems with those two decisions and the problems that the PKTT concept or name, how was it dragged into this problem. And then in response then to that request, then we agreed with the Provincial Commissioner for us to get around about 10 members to be seconded to the GCI Ops in order to conduct that swift operation to neutralize the threat. The point that maybe I must stress on paragraph 106, the last sentence that says, although these 10 PKTT members worked on the dockets were not transferred to PKTT. They came to assist for a short period, so as then the threat is neutralized as quickly as possible. Then on the members, 10 members that you requested, I felt it important to include them in my paragraph 107 because they came on board on the 19th of November 2024. I felt it important to list them so as one can continue demonstrating the methodology that is employed in the PKTT. Out of 10 members of PKTT that were requested, there is only one investigating officer. The rest, which is 9, are different experts because we needed that expertism so as then we are able to swiftly deal with the problem. From the ballistic analyst, as the Honorable Committee will recall, one of the issues raised by the senior state prosecutor was the ballistic report. So we had to include the ballistic analyst, the forensic digital analyst, the case of Ferenegeng Amanswart had a lot of digital forensic work that needed to be done. The call data analyst, the crime scene investigators, 3 of them, because the crime scene of Amanswart was divided into 3 crime scenes. The first scene number 1 was where he was shot. Scene number 2 was where the first vehicle was intercepted. Scene number 3 was where the other vehicle and firearms were found in a particular house. So we had to get those 3 crime scene investigators, and then we had to get an operational analyst and the commander who understands the PKTT methodology, as well as the designated firearm officer who was going to work on also the firearms together with the ballistic analyst. And then as I've indicated, with one investigating officer. From paragraph 108 to 109, maybe read with 107, one is demonstrating the swiftness. The team of experts comes in on the 19th. By the 5th of December, they are in a position, I can safely say they had identified the whole cartel, and they were in a position to start the first takedown operation. That is within the space of 3 weeks. Then on paragraph 109, one is introducing then the second assistance. To put it practically clear, the experts came to assist only for between 2 to 3 weeks, and they withdrew because most of the analysis work was done. So the team, the GCI Ops, was now ready to start with takedown operations. Then for the first takedown operation on the 6th of December, we had to request again the expertise, different expertise now from PKTT in the form of combat members as well as special task force for that particular takedown, which was divided into two. The first one was to effect an arrest on Katiso Mulife, as well as the questioning of Vusimuzi Matlala regarding the parallel case, which was and still kidnapping. So that is the second support that the PKTT gave to the GCI Ops. It was a one-day operation when the combat teams had to come in. The reason for that, during the analysis and the threat and risk assessment, it had come out that almost the whole of SAPS in Gauteng is working for the cartel. So hence, then we had to get the combat team even from the PKTT, and even the special task force that we used for that operation was not from Gauteng province, but was from outside Gauteng province. That is the operation of the 6th. So the PKTT suffered and is still suffering for that assistance of 2.5 weeks and 1 day, which raised a wrong impression that PKTT is investigating the cartel. PKTT came in to assist.
Just a moment, General. Honorable James.
Thank you, Chair. I almost fell off my chair now. Did I hear the General correctly when he said an analysis was done and you found that almost the entire Gauteng SAPS was working for the cartel? Just clarify that statement, please.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. We say that because whatever that we were doing in now this covert operation will find its way to the very same cartel. That is from the resources. I think even the vehicles were all over the social media. The vehicles with registration plates that were used by the team. So as the team is working, they are going to courts and to police stations. So where they are, and then they are, then whatever that they are doing is given to the cartel members. We had collected a lot of information and identified a lot of members from within. Maybe let me make an example of the uniform combat teams. There is this, what is happening in Gauteng, where the highly trained combat members of SAPS are moonlighting for the cartels. In other words, working outside their working hours. It happened to the team, I think, on 2 occasions when they are moving with the combat teams from Gauteng. They get to a cartel member, and then the member will ask, "Hey, what are you doing here? Because you were with me last weekend, working for me." So that will be my answer.
Thank you, Chair. I'll get into it when it's question time. Thanks.
General Khumalo, and just further on that, speaking about the moonlighting of
Let's switch off the microphones. Honorable James. Honorable James, look at me at the same time. Let's.
General Khumalo, just from what the question that Honorable James was asking, you mentioned specifically in your statement that when you arrived at Mr. Malifi's residence, you note that he was identified as a suspect, and when you arrived at his residence, you say in paragraph 111, on 6 December, the investigative team, including members of the PKTT, proceeded to the residence of Mr. Malifi in an attempt to locate and engage with him. And during the operation, the following suspicious interventions took place. And you proceed to describe certain events that happened at the residence of Mr. Malifi. Could you just briefly explain to us, as you take us through those events, what your perception was of the presence of these members of the Hawks, as you described, and the Metro Police when you arrived at Mr. Ket Malifi's house?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. On paragraph 111, 1 and 2, I'm introducing the happenings or the events of the 6th of July, of December, during that 2-in-1 operation, maybe also to back up the point that I tried to raise when Honorable James asked the question. With PKTT, I've heard some people trying to associate us with being violent. That one, I can assure the committee, were the most professional team. Each and every operation is planned thoroughly. So when then we were at the initial phase, which is the surveillance phase of the operation, that is when then we came across a JMPD officer who is part-time working for, according to our information, for Katiso Mulif, Officer Johnny Mokhatle, who was then dispatched by Mulife to come and check this suspicious car, our surveillance car. That was that was part of our phase 1 operation, which is surveillance and monitoring. I'm introducing the second incident during the course of the search. Now, I'm still going to maybe go into details in terms of the JMPD officer. But then during the course of the search, a helicopter was then dispatched to hover on top of the house where the members were working, and monitoring, and it was dispatched from the law enforcement again. It's normally dispatched then through the JMPD when or if there are CIT incidents or any other. So that was the second encounter that the team had to deal with. Before then, two groups from DPCI arrived at different times to the scene of crime, to the scene where members then were effecting just the arrest. Then maybe then as I approach the interference by the Hawks specifically, I will then give a short narrative as to what happened. Firstly, the first group, maybe before I get to the first group, let me remind the committee that although I touched on it, but it's still coming where, because JMPD officer have got the systems in his phone, can circulate, track, and do whatever the vehicle. So he gave feedback. Okay, he came into Kadisomlifi's house, took him out, driving in a JMPD official vehicle to go and look for this suspicious vehicle. And then he did confirm that this is an SAPS vehicle. So I'm citing that Kadisomlif was aware well in advance that there will be a police operation in his house. And then as then the operation starts, that's when then the first group from DPCI is dispatched by their generals to come and check what's happening.
General, I don't want to interrupt, but maybe to